I woke up to the sound of chaos. Not the peaceful kind of morning where you hear the bees humming outside your window, but the kind that makes your heart drop straight to your slippers. My dogs were barking their heads off, gravel crunching under tires out by the drive. I stepped outside, still wearing my old red flannel robe, and there was the scene that knocked the sleep right out of me. My honey shed wide open, shelves stripped bare, save for a few sad, sticky smears where rows of golden jars used to be. I just stood there in shock for a second, until I caught sight of her, Karen. You know the type. HOA president, pearls tied around her neck, sunglasses on at sunrise, and an ego so oversized you'd need a wide-load permit to haul it through town. She was loading jar after jar into the back of her white SUV, like she was returning from a victorious shopping spree. When I hollered, she didn't even flinch, just gave a wave and hollered back, "Oh, don't worry, John. The HOA will make good use of this." Then she drove off, tires screeching, pride and honey both in tow. That's when I looked toward the tree lean, thick woods behind the house, the kind of place black bears like to wander. And I swear to you, an idea popped into my head that was sweeter than anything I'd ever bottled. See, in this neighborhood, there's always one person who treats the HOA like their own personal kingdom. And here it was Karen Mitchell. She'd been the self-crowned queen of Fairview Oaks ever since the last president moved out, probably from exhaustion, if you ask me. Karen was a force. Pastel cardigans, clipboard always in hand, big, fake smile, and the uncanny ability to make leaving your trash cans out 3 minutes late feel like a federal offense. She fined people for every little thing, reported teens for skateboarding, made me repaint my barn once because she thought the shade of red wasn't HOA compliant. When I told her it was the same red as every barn in the county for 200 years, she sniffed and said, "Well, not in my HOA." I put up with her, sure. I'd learned to tune her out until she crossed a line that should have been sacred. My bees. I've been keeping bees for over 20 years, ever since I retired from teaching. The hives sit way in the back, far from everyone's fences. Every rule followed to the letter, every zoning code, every page in that ridiculous HOA handbook. Karen still found a reason to complain. "The bees make my flowers sticky," she once said. Another time, "They're aggressive toward my cat." Never mind the fact her cat had clawed open one of my hives and got stung for its trouble. Natural consequences, if you ask me. But even I didn't think she'd resort to stealing. That morning, watching her car vanish down the road, my first instinct was to chase her, call the sheriff, raise holy hell. But I didn't. Maybe I was too stunned, maybe I was tired of the fight, or maybe, just maybe, I thought, no, she can't get away with this. Not this time. Later that afternoon, Karen came strutting down the street, waving at the neighbors like she was running for office. When she saw me, she called out, "Your honey's delightful. We sampled it at the HOA brunch committee." I stared at her, jaw dropped. "You mean the honey you stole out of my shed?" She just tilted her head, pretending not to understand. "Oh, don't be dramatic, John. Technically, it's within HOA property lines, so it's shared produce. You should thank me for sharing your work." I couldn't believe the nerve. I clenched my fists, forced a smile, said, "Next time you want to showcase something, try asking first." She laughed. One of those laughs that crawls right under your skin. "Oh, don't be so territorial. The bees work for everyone." That line, that was the one that did it. The bees work for everyone. Lady, I thought, you haven't put in a single hour with these hives, never suited up, never got stung, never sweated through July in a bee jacket. I wanted to scream, but I knew better. You don't want to fight with someone who's never wrong. You let the world teach them. So I watched as word spread that Karen had been handing out my honey at HOA events, calling it local gold. One neighbor even showed me her Facebook post, Karen grinning behind a table stacked with my jars. The caption, "Supporting community sustainability." I wanted to call the cops, but let's be honest, the sheriff would just roll his eyes. Karen had friends on the board. No one would believe the honey heist. Instead, I started thinking about the woods behind the house. Bear Hollow, locals call it. Black bears come through every summer looking for snacks. They never bothered anyone, just knocked over a trash can, moved on. But bears, they love honey. That evening, sipping my tea on the porch, I watched the tree leaves sway and thought about balance. Nature, I mused, has a way of evening things out. The next morning, Karen came back for seconds. Her SUV, trunk open, she was scooping more jars. When she saw me, she just smiled, bold as brass, and called, "Just taking a few more jars for HOA gift basket, John. Hope you don't mind." I just stood there, silent, smoker in my hand. She got uncomfortable, slammed her trunk, and left. That was it. I decided it was time for a different kind of justice. I cleaned out a few old honey buckets and left them open behind the shed that night, just for cycling, letting the scent waft toward the woods. Bears love a sweet breeze. The next day, I made a subtle honey trail along the base of the trees and fence posts, a little extra by the wild blackberries right by Karen's back fence. The same bushes she tried to have removed because they were untidy. Irony's a fine thing. At dusk, as the cicadas hummed and the pine filled the air, I finished my work. Later that night, through my binoculars, I saw two shapes move out of the trees, a mother bear and her cub. They sniffed along the scent, making their way to the backyards. The next morning, Karen hosted another HOA brunch, honey jars lined up like trophies. As the guests laughed and gossiped, the breeze carried that sweet scent straight to the woods. About 20 minutes in, a bear ambled out, followed by chaos. Screams, chairs flying, Karen spraying the hose, yelling, "Go away. This is private property." I laughed so hard I nearly cried. There she was, self-proclaimed guardian of the HOA, arguing with the bear. Police came, shrugged, told her to call wildlife services. That night, I sipped my tea on the porch, feeling something I hadn't in a long time, balance. For once, Karen was speechless. For once, the HOA couldn't write a rule to fix what had happened. But Karen, she never lets go. She blamed me on the group chat, said my bees provoked wildlife, that I was a hazard. The next afternoon, she stomped to my porch, clipboard in hand, said, "Your bees are creating a public risk. The bears could attack again." I grinned. "You mean in your yard?" Her nostrils flared. "To the community. I'm proposing your beekeeping privileges be suspended." "Let me get this straight," I said. "You steal my honey, attract bears, and now I'm the problem?" She bristled. "The HOA handbook doesn't outrank state wildlife code," I interrupted. "And it sure doesn't give you permission to steal." That shut her up, if only for a second. She stalked off, but that night I doubled down. Left more scent, a few old apples, and, just to make sure, borrowed some of her lavender-scented trash bags. Bears, turns out, adore lavender. That evening, during her backyard yoga session, 3 bears wandered right in, drawn by the smells. Candles, mats, HOA ladies in full retreat, Karen shrieking and tripping over her mat. Bears sampled the tea, knocked over towels, ignored the garden hose. 5 minutes of pandemonium, then back into the woods they went. Karen was left clutching her mat like a lifeline. The next morning, another emergency HOA meeting. Karen, arms scratched from her own bushes, wanted all beehives banned, motion alarms installed. For once, no one agreed. The spell was broken. That night, Karen crept through my yard, caught by my cameras, trying to stage evidence, pouring honey on a decoy hive. Next day, she called a meeting, waving proof I was baiting bears. But I had the video, Karen, flashlight and all, planting her own evidence. The room erupted in laughter. She stormed out, red-faced, sputtering about corruption. Still, she didn't quit. She spread rumors. My bees were dangerous, the honey contaminated, the bears would be back. Fine. That night, I left one last scent trail, just for good measure. 3 a.m., barking, then a scream. 2 bears strolling through her yard, Karen on the porch waving a broom, yelling, "You're trespassing." The irony was almost too much. A certified letter arrived. Karen was suing me. Negligence, emotional distress, property damage. I nearly spit out my coffee. I called Lisa, my lawyer. She just laughed. Let her try, she said. Karma's got a subpoena. On court day, Karen arrived in a neck brace, sunglasses, looking like a soap opera victim. Her lawyer tried to keep up. The judge, a tired man who'd seen it all, let her speak her piece. Claims of weaponized beekeeping and bear manipulation. Lisa presented video after video. Karen stealing honey, staging evidence, the infamous bear brunch. By the time the last clip rolled, Karen running in circles while bears licked up Karen's harvest, honey. The judge was done. Case dismissed, he said. Distress doesn't rewrite facts. Karen stormed out, neck brace forgotten, clattering heels like punctuation. She moved out not long after. The day the movers came, I watched her drive off, never once looking back. The quiet that settled on Fairview Oaks was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. People started waving again. A new couple moved in, Emily and David, both teachers, beekeepers in the making. I baked them a honey loaf as a welcome gift. The HOA softened. Rules relaxed. Mitchell Park went back to Cedar Grove. We even talked about a real community picnic for once. Mark, my neighbor, joked about me being a local legend, the bear whisperer. I groaned, but secretly it felt good to be known for something other than being the cranky beekeeper. One morning, I found fresh paw prints by my hives, bears passing through, the bees unbothered. I left a small jar of honey by the trees as thanks. Peace settled back in slow and steady. The seasons turned. Spring brought blossoms, summer brought honey, and the hives thrived. Sometimes I wonder about Karen, if she learned anything at all. A few months later, I got a letter and signed. I hope your bees are still as stubborn as you. I smiled, folded it into my journal. Maybe, just maybe, people can change. If this whole mess taught me anything, it's that you can fight all you want, waive your rules, write your memos, but nature, life, justice, they have a way of evening things out. Control isn't power. Respect is. The bees taught me that. The bears, too. Some lessons aren't gentle. So, if you ever find yourself up against a Karen, stay calm, stay kind, and let time and karma do the heavy lifting. The harmony always comes back when a noise fades. Now tell me, have you ever had a Karen moment of your own? Drop it in the comments and let's hear how you handled it. And don't forget to subscribe. There's always another wild HOA tale just around the corner.